So you want to monetize your podcast. Well, that's all well and good. And in the last episode of the Podcast Accelerator, I give you an overview of 15 ways that you can do that based on our in-depth ultimate article on how to make money from your podcast at captivate.fm/money. Go and check that out. But today, I want to talk to you about some of the things that you need in place before you can make money from your podcast, because there are some considerations that you have to undertake prior to kicking off any monetization plans. This, of course, is the Podcast Accelerator. I'm your host, Mark Asquith, CEO and founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make podcasting platforms, including, of course, the world's only growth-oriented podcast hosting platform, captivate.fm. Go and get 7 days totally free at captivate.fm and check out that 15 ways to monetize your podcast blog, captivate.fm/money. Now, the Podcast Accelerator, big announcement, is now available on YouTube. It is available at youtube.com/Rebel Base Media. I am filming every episode. This is not a repurposed version of the show, which I'm completely fine with doing that, but I decided to do a little more. I want to just show you how I record this show and also just publish this content out to YouTube. For those of you that might be listening on a desktop computer, at work, or in other situations where a podcast app isn't appropriate. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, youtube.com/Rebel Base Media. And if you are listening on YouTube, then welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and look at all the other fantastic podcasting tutorials that we have on the YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to dig into the content in 5 seconds, but a quick shout out to Aweber, my email marketing platform of choice, who helped me to monetize my podcast. They help me to generate income through Captivate, podcast websites, productivity, and Podcast Success Academy, the products that we own in podcasting. And as a podcaster, you need to be building your email list. If you don't own your email data, if you're only building your community, for example, on Facebook, that is a mistake. So please check out Aweber for 30 days at markasquith.com/Aweber. So, like I said, you want to monetize your podcast. That's cool. That's all well and good. That's fantastic. I mean, that's a very admirable thing to want to do, and it's something that's very, very possible. In fact, I believe that you can cover your costs very, very early in your podcasting life cycle. However, we are spending 5 to 6 weeks talking here on the Podcast Accelerator about monetization. It would be remiss of me not to discuss, before we dig into the specifics, what I think you need in place before you can do that, all right? Before you can do anything with monetization. So today I'm going to talk about some of the things that you need in place. And that, of course, starts with an ability to be consistent, all right? Just like anything. You know, if you've got a job and you get paid every month, you're expected to turn up there every single day and do your job, or you're expected to do your contracted hours. You're expected to do the things that are asked of you and that you are obligated to do. And as a podcaster, it can be quite difficult, because, life kicks in, life happens. Podcasting for many people is a hobby, and it's something, like my golf, that frankly, I don't spend enough time on, and you might not spend enough time on your podcast, but if someone's paying you for that, whether it's sponsorship, whether it's to buy a course from you, whether it is in the form of listener donations and listener support, maybe they're paying for premium content, or they're considering buying a service from you, they have to see that you are consistent, that you are able to do this continually, that you are willing to do this continually, and that you are willing to continually put the effort in to provide the level of value that they are used to and essentially what they will be paying for. So that's one thing, is that you can't expect to monetize a podcast if you kind of treating this like it's transient. Well, I'll not do my podcast this week because I'm tired, or, no one will miss it. It's cool. It's a podcast. It's a hobby. It is fine if that's the case, if it is a hobby. But don't expect people to continue to pay you for that, all right? Because you can't have it both ways, okay? So that's the first thing that I say, is a willingness and an ability, the bandwidth, the capacity to be consistent with this thing. The next thing that I would suggest that you need, and the thing that I think is vitally important, is you need to understand a little bit about your audience. Now, that's not to say that you need a giant audience to monetize. I know people that monetize with tiny audiences and do really, really well from it because they go niche, or they've got a very, very loyal fan base. Heck, we monetized not to any tune of, being able to retire, but we monetized our Star Wars podcast, Spark of Rebellion, very, very quickly. Very quickly, we covered our hosting costs pre-launch because we knew people that would like the show, and we got them to support us on Patreon, and they did, all right, pre-launch. But the thing with this is you have to know your audience well enough to know what they will do. Okay. Now, what I mean by this is that you can't expect your audience to do something unless you've proven that they will do something else. So let's say that monetization is the end game here. You know, that's the thing that you really want to achieve. That's the panacea for you. That's the thing that you really want to hit with your podcast. You know, you can't expect to go straight into that and to say, well, look, this is my podcast, go and sponsor it, or go and support it on Patreon, or go and do something else that equates to giving me money. Unless you have proven that people will do something else that you've asked them to do. So whether that is devising some engagement test that includes, let's get in touch on Twitter. You know, I do this very frequently on Twitter. You know, I'll say to someone, well, look, if you need a hand with anything, drop me an email back or send me a tweet at Mr. Asquith on Twitter. And let's just chat. And people do, you know, I've got amazing people like Felicia and Raf and Calm and Quincy and Paula and so many other people that reach out to me on Twitter. Charlie Wyman did an episode just for Charlie. Danny Brown, people like that get in touch with me on Twitter, on Facebook. They'll get in touch with me via email. And I can prove that those guys will get in touch with me. So if I wanted to monetize this show by asking for donations, those would be the people that I would ask advice of. I'd say, well, how would you want this to work? And would you potentially support it? We're in sales. You know, if we're trying to sell our podcast, then we're in sales, and we got to adopt sales techniques. All right. So prove that your audience will engage in some way. It doesn't need to be massive, but just prove an engagement experiment. All right. Get someone to tweet you, follow you on Instagram, DM you on Instagram, tag you in a post, go and join your Facebook group. Something that proves that they will shift channels from listening to doing. All right, channel shift is important. And then the third and final thing that I would say that you need to do before you monetize, and I'm not talking about logistical things here, like make sure you've got a bank account and a PayPal account that can accept payment. Like they're a given. You've got to do all those things. But the last kind of soft thing that I think most podcasters get wrong is have a brand that people can get behind. Like people get behind my Podcast Accelerator show because they know it's no BS. They know it's no fluff. It's short form. It's straight talking. Like I get very animated. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that my hands are everywhere, and this is what I do. And people get behind that brand. I deliver a lot of the same information that other people talk about, but I deliver it in my style, and it's my brand. And a lot of people like it. Some people don't like it. That's fine. They're not my people. That's okay. That's cool. Okay. You have to be comfortable with your brand. Why? I know it sounds a little bit softly, nicey, touchy-feely, boring stuff that we shouldn't need to worry about as a podcaster. But what we're doing here is we are trying to monetize for the long term. And in order to monetize for the long term, what we have to do is make sure that people know exactly what to expect from us. And people can only expect things from us if we have delivered something that is consistently in our brand tone, okay? If we don't do that, people are going to wonder whether we're going to flip and flop. You know, what am I exactly getting from Mark? You know, am I going to get, like, is he going to sell out? Is he going to change how the premium content's delivered? If he gets a sponsor, is he going to change how things happen? Is he not going to be able to say certain things or do certain things? Build a brand, all right? We've got content in the podcastsuccessacademy.com about that. Podcastsuccessacademy.com is our free academy that anyone can use, and we're just overhauling some of the content there. So get yourself behind your brand and get a brand and build a brand that people can get behind, all right? There's no coincidence that we call our brand Rebel Base Media. Yes, we're Star Wars fans. Yes, it's pretty cool. But we're pretty rebellious. We don't do things the way that other podcast people do them, all right? We say things that other people skirt around. That is our brand. What is your brand? All right? Just think on that. Now, look, we are going to spend a lot of time this month on monetization, right through the next month, actually. So there's going to be a lot of content about how to monetize your podcast. I want you to go and check out that big ultimate blog post article, captivate.fm/money. It's a big tutorial on how you can make money with your podcast. It's a big list of 15 ways, actionable things that you can do today to make money from your podcast. And look, if you want to talk about them, we do free coaching. I personally am there doing free coaching every single Friday in our Facebook group, all right? rebelbasemedia.io/free coaching will take you to the Facebook group. We don't need your email address. Go to rebelbasemedia.io/free coaching, and you're going to be able to access that at 11 a.m. Eastern every single Friday, all right? So thanks for joining me. Let's get started with monetization. Thank you to everyone that tunes in to the Podcast Accelerator, to everyone that sends all the information through Quincy and Paula, and everyone that sends me questions in. Thank you so very much. Thank you to anyone that's joining the nascent, brand new YouTube version of this. It's a real pleasure to see you, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic way for us to engage with each other. And until the next time, stay safe, look after each other, and never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.